Hello and welcome to today's program, Using littleBits in Your Library Makerspace. I'm Kathy Shizuka, Executive Editor of School Library Journal and moderator for today's webcast, sponsored by littleBits. Before we get to our program, a few housekeeping items. If you're experiencing technical problems, please use the red Q&A button on the audience console to let us know, and someone will be along to provide assistance. If your screen gets locked, try using F5 to refresh the console. On a Mac, that's Command R. Today's slide presentation is available for download in the green Resources folder that's located on your bottom menu dock. There's also a certificate for continuing ed credit there. We welcome your questions or comments, and please send those at any time via the red Q&A box. As always, you can join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag SLJMakerspace, and you can connect with us at @SLJournal, our handle there. And now to our program. The kids love them, but I don't really get what to do with them. That was a tweet posted yesterday by Teacher Librarian Christine Sturgeon. With her kind permission, I wanted to share that comment because it goes to the essence of our program today, in which our presenters will cover the ins and outs of using littleBits in a learning context and how this activity integrates with both the curriculum and the library. So a special welcome to you, Christine. You're in the right place. And to all of you out there who are eager to learn more. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's presenters. Colleen Graves is a middle and high school librarian, currently at Ryan High School in Denton ISD in Texas. She's a good friend of SLJ, a contributor and presenter at our recent Fall Maker workshop. Colleen is widely known as a creative librarian, and you can connect with her on Twitter. Her handle is @GravesColleen. Bridget Campion is Senior Regional Manager of littleBits Education. Also based in Texas, Bridget recently helped Colleen's school district bring littleBits to all 32 of their elementary schools, and I hear there are plans to involve the district's middle and high schools as well. So over to you, Bridget.
Thanks a lot, Kathy. That is true. Colleen is growing with leaps and bounds. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone to our Using littleBits in Your Library Makerspace. Again, I'm Bridget, and I am the Senior Regional Manager for littleBits in the Gulf Coast area. Before I hand you off to our illustrious maker and littleBits expert, Colleen Graves, I wanted to take 15 minutes of your time to share our littleBits philosophy with you and how that has helped shape our educational solutions. Our mission. We have one goal at littleBits, and it is to simply reach all learners with all learning modalities in all levels of education. How do we hope to do this? Whoops. Wrong slide for me, sorry. I'll go back and I'll go back in order in just a second. We hope to do that with littleBits. littleBits are color-coded building blocks, are modules that link together by magnets and create circuits, both simple and complex. Magnets are really inspiring to our young inventors because it allows them to tear apart, make, remake, tear apart, and make again. To our more accomplished inventors, that's simply called prototyping. The color coding is simple to understand. Blue is power. Green is output, such as light, sound, or motion. If you simply connected a blue to a green, you would get a continuous light, buzz, or robotic arm movement. Pink is input, which controls your output and circuit. Pink provides control that is affected by you or your environment, such as a pressure sensor or a temperature sensor. Orange is wire. These are connectors or branches and can add complexity in programming to your circuit. littleBits was conceived and designed by our CEO and founder, Aya Beer. He started our company at the heart of the maker movement from the very beginning, and we love to explore, play, design, and make, especially as it pertains to education. Aya's background is centered in computer science, but she was very interested in design and went to the MIT Media Lab to explore the idea of electronics as a material. She wanted to create a medium that was accessible to all students, not just those with the advanced knowledge of electronics. So what do we have here? An ever-growing library of bits. We have over 70 modules. littleBits, simply put, helps teach the language of technology. In speaking with one of my customers, they shared the power of littleBits like this. They said, not only do littleBits teach technology and coding and circuitry, but they are an incredible way to teach risk-taking, problem visualization, applying knowledge to a new situation, and collaboration. littleBits has also been able to branch out to combine our solution with other software and hardware applications. IFT is a collaboration that works in conjunction with our CloudBit module. You're able to create inventions that actually speak to each other across the internet. Minecraft, I'm sure you're all familiar with, and littleBits gives the students a way to physically interact and control their virtual Minecraft world. Lego, we have the coolest Lego adapters, and you can create mixed littleBit and Lego inventions with these. When you combine everyday materials with littleBits, this is when the magic happens. We start with simple inventions such as this bubble flute, and we go all the way to the complex, such as a person who had invented a data gathering invention that measured earthquakes. littleBits in education is a growing movement. As educators started using littleBits, we were interested in how they were being used in the classroom and libraries and why. And through the process of discovery and enhancing our educational solutions, we have grown from just a few educators using us here and there to a base of over 9,000 educators in both formal and informal settings in the school. We span K-12, K-20, and as I like to say, K-NASA scientists. I was lucky enough to meet a NASA scientist at my very first Maker Fair, and he told me that there was no better way to prototype than by using littleBits. His team was actually inventing smaller satellites that would be launched into our atmosphere. But why littleBits in education? littleBits is a tool that propels students' learning forward. It is because of our ever-changing world of technological advancements that littleBits has become so popular in our world. I've read that employers look for two things, two skills from their new recruits as they come into the corporate world. One is the ability to learn, and the other is to adapt. A very interesting article I had read recently said that if you fast forward to the year 2022, the U.S. will be deficit 140,000 applicants for software engineers. Actually, we will be deficit and in need of countless engineers in all disciplines. We will also lack architects and auto mechanics as a point of interest. And we know that those are actually controlled more by computers now as well. Mitch Resnick, a littleBits advisor and Scratch founder, passed on his concept of the best technological solutions. Low floors, easy to get started with, high ceilings, supporting complex solutions, wide walls, appealing to a wide variety of students, makers, and educators. So, with low floors, high ceilings, and wide walls in mind, littleBits grows with your scholars. I had a conversation with educators that they start teaching littleBits in kindergarten to teach simple circuits. We take your students through a journey, advancing them to basic logic and programming, then on to cloud computing, and all the way up to hardware development kits, which you can use to create your own bits and propel your inventions even further. When we speak about the wide walls are how we want to teach all students at all levels and all curriculum. Some applications of littleBits are somewhat obvious to me, science and technology. But when you start expanding and learning more from teachers and creators, that comes with a lot of great thinking and expansion of use. One of my customers shared with me that they use littleBits in their English language arts class for concepts like cause and effect and teaching process writing skills. A huge part of learning in the littleBits is the littleBits invention cycle, or the process of how we invent. We have made this invention cycle an integral part of our new Gizmos and Gadgets kit. You can find out a lot more about Gizmos and Gadgets on our website. But the invention cycle, it just keeps our students in mind. Our students create, play, collaborate, problem solve, remix, and share. Sharing is a fabulous way to get those kids honed in on very important non-cognitive and soft skills in your educational solution. The belief has always been that it was hard to incorporate standards into the maker movement, but our invention cycle actually blends perfectly the concept of rigor and creativity. More obviously, we are completely tied into STEM and STEAM, 21st century learning program, and design thinking. Our education-focused philosophy and journey we are taking at littleBits led us to create projects and solutions specifically geared towards the educator's needs. So what we looked at when we designed these kits was space, number of students, and type of instruction. We can design a solution for you that spans 1 to 2 student users to 4 to 5 to obviously library makerspaces and entire campuses and whole districts. Through careful collaboration and listening to our customers and educators' needs, we have created our educational bundle solutions. Each of our educational solutions is specifically designed to meet your particular need. One of the most recent solutions that we've just launched is our STEAM Professional Development course. This is a 6-hour introductory, virtually delivered, interactive professional development solution for educators new to littleBits and STEAM. It comes with a Gizmos and Gadgets kit, all the materials and content you need for a robust professional development solution. In honor of our Library Makerspace webinar, we're highlighting one of these education bundles, and that is the littleBits Invention Lab. This was specifically designed for a library makerspace. It comes with a pro library, complete with a wall unit and easy access to bits. It also includes 2 space kits. These kits were designed in collaboration with NASA, 2 synth kits that were designed in collaboration with Korg, or another way I like to put it is actually all the musical design that you want to do in a box without any actual musical equipment. 2 deluxe kits and a professional development seat. That was the professional development that I mentioned before. We have lots of resources online. We have a library of lessons that spans from beginning all the way to the very advanced. And we have a fabulous community and global chapters program. I invite you to go to our website, www.littlebits.cc, and really take a look around. We have an educator guide. Aya Badir's TED Talk is right on our website. She's also come out with her first maker book. So just take a dive in and explore. So without further ado, I would like to turn the presentation over to Colleen Graves. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Bridget. This is Colleen Graves. I am a maker, teacher, and a librarian, and I have a blog up at colleengraves.org. And I am talking to you today because I just finished writing the Librarian's Guide to littleBits, which will hopefully be published very soon on the littleBits webpage and I think School Library Journal as well. And it is a free resource for you that will be out very soon. So you guys are getting a sneak peek at what the information is in the guide. And my guide is meant to help you get started with littleBits and the STEAM movement. You'll get real-world insights from other maker librarians because I interviewed lots of maker librarians who've done amazing things with littleBits. And you'll learn how to organize your bits because we all know librarians love to organize. And you'll guide your students through design challenges. You'll figure out how to create fixed littleBits stations in your libraries, host workshops, and build a maker community and more. So why littleBits? Why do you think they're a good thing? This is actually one of those things that I had to talk my new principal into. I just moved up from a middle school. I was at Lamar Middle School, and now I am in high school at Ryan Library. And we know that playing leads to learning. And many studies have shown this, and the maker movement is founded in these beliefs. Allowing for free tinkering will not only get your students to understand the functionality of each bit, it will help them build upon those learning experiences once you give them a direct challenge. So more concretely, playing with littleBits, they can actually help your students grasp concepts that they have in abstract courses like math. So you can practice math on pencil and paper, but it's very abstract. But with littleBits, you can actually use the parabola and inverse square lessons to make math become concrete and applicable by having real-world values in those variables. And experimenting to learn helps the learning stick because it makes it memorable and concrete. So you have to give your kids time to tinker. So one of the first things you do when you get your littleBits is you need to let them play. Instead of explicitly instructing students about the color organizations regarding inputs and outputs, let your students figure out how each bit functions. You'll be surprised what your kids learn by tinkering. What's even more amazing is how willing your kids will be to share with adults about what they've learned while playing with littleBits. That's why it's essential that you set aside time in your library for students and patrons to tinker and learn. I would hold maker mornings last year, and I made that time all about free designing. And I still do that this year. As adults, we have a hard time with tinkering and giving students time to figure things out on their own. It's hard for us, but every one of us has followed a set of instructions to make something. But how many times have we set out to tinker and just see what we can discover and invent on our own? For me, teaching my middle school and high school students to tinker is a fundamental building block to molding a young innovator. Tinkering is what will lead to the next big thing, not following instructions. Creating and making mistakes. That's how we learn, and that's how we grow. So once you get these little bits, how are you going to organize them? How you organize your bits will actually determine how much your patrons utilize them. You need a system that is approachable for your students, yet manageable for you. If you only have a few kits, you might consider organizing them by color in a small tool bin storage. That's actually what you're seeing here is a tool bin storage I had from Harbor Freight. When I only had a few kits, I organized my bits alongside my other maker resources in this tool bin organizer. These handy colorful tubs allowed my students to grab the bits and get to work anywhere in the library. And then some mornings I would just hand the bins to kids and say, stop playing games and make something. Because one of my main goals in my library is for my students to see the library as a place to create and not just consume. So you can see in the upper right corner I would just put all the green bits in one bin, all the pink bits in another bin, and all the orange bits in a third bin. So you might need your bits a little more clearly organized if you're doing a guided activity. So you can see in the middle picture, this teacher has her bits labeled and sorted into clearly labeled photo storage boxes that you can see, and then they also stay organized. That is actually a photo storage, and you can also put them in tackle boxes. It's another way to make them organized, approachable, and easily viewable. The color bin organizers I still use. I leave them out at a tinkering table next to my littleBits Pro library so students can tinker as long as possible before they get to class. Sometimes you don't want students putting the bits back unless they're trained in putting them back, sort of like how you don't want them shelving books unless you know they know how to do it. So you kind of think about that in the same way. So how do I build this maker community? I've only been at my current school about 2 months. And the easiest way to build a maker community is to host school-wide or community-wide design challenges. Show off what your kids create. Immerse your patrons in maker supplies. Another crucial part of building your community is letting everyone have a part. It's imperative to let some students observe, some create, and others to become natural leaders in your makerspace. It's equally important to include students and patrons in your decision making. So take stock in what your stakeholders enjoy the most in your space. Do they prefer guided workshops over open-ended projects? Do they all have the bits they need for their ideas to function? When I asked my students how we built a successful makerspace at Lamar, they were emphatic that involving them, the students, in decision-making and promotion was the key to our success. By asking teams what they wanted to create in the library and allowing them to advertise with self-made posters, I'd given them ownership in our space. And that sense of ownership made them want to come back again and again and again. And another key to our success was immersing our school culture and community culture in maker resources. All of our supplies are out and accessible all day. And thanks to my PTA at my old school, I was able to buy the littleBits Pro library and create a corner in the library where students could make stuff. Now I have that again, thanks to my principal. I have the same Pro library, and it's there with displayed with project ideas, and students can earn a littleBits Maker badge once they've completed all their initial challenge cards, and they can learn how they've learned how all the bits work. So this badge gives them access to come to the library and create during any free time they have, and a student is allowed to complete challenges. Any student is allowed to complete challenges and start using littleBits. Hang on. I also really enjoy the library maker community. It's one way to kind of join in the global maker community. And once you've acquired and organized your littleBits, you need to join the littleBits online community, because anytime you're stuck, there's a forum you can reach out to for help. If you need project ideas for a project or a workshop, there's a plethora of great resources on their blog in the forum, and then joining the global chapter is another great way to get your community involved in making. So a little bit about my littleBits corner. Sorry for the pun. A littleBits Corner is a cozy place. We had one at Lamar, and then I have another littleBits Corner here at Ryan. So you're looking at what I have now, my current setup, and it is a huge locking cabinet where I house my pro library. So it's open during the day, but it's lockable for after-school activities. I've placed clipboards on the wall with various rotating project ideas, and the bits are located by our other Makerspace resources near standing height tinkering tables. So kids can grab bits, plug in through the USB cable, and start tinkering. The littleBits Corner that I did at Lamar should be the next picture. It's a cozy space where kids can be seen and heard tinkering before school, prototyping at lunch, and enjoying learning during their free advisory period. And it was just in the corner, and I didn't put a fancy cabinet around it because the middle school we didn't have as many issues with after-school activities. So I love having these littleBits Corners, but I can't host a workshop with 60 kids in either of these spaces. Thankfully, the bits are flexible. For workshops, I just move the bins, but maintain the order, and place them on a couple of book trucks near our classroom area. Depending on the workshop, I'll pull out the main or most used bits we'll be working with and place them on our library classroom tables, but leave the rest of the bits on the book truck. I leave those there, accessible to students who want extra bits to make their ideas come to life. So kids, teenagers, and adults could play with littleBits all day, but at some point you'll need to focus patrons with a design challenge. A design challenge will give your makers a time limit, test their abilities, and most importantly, give them a chance to show off their work. You can make up your own, or you can join a challenge in the littleBits online community. My students just finished the Hack Your Halloween challenge, and it was lots of fun. You can see my YouTube video up probably in a few minutes. I just posted it right before this. All right, so my students, one thing about design challenges is, like, my students were obsessed with music bits, and they weren't really doing anything but playing with music at Lamar. So I hosted an art bot challenge to incorporate the students' creative side and expose them to a few more ideas. You could host an Internet of Things challenge with the Cloud Bits. These design challenges keep students interested by getting them outside of their comfort zones and getting them to try new things. Just make sure you let your patrons experiment and give them time to tinker, fail, make, and improve their designs. Now, tips and tricks from other librarians. I was able to talk to so many amazing librarians, and I'm really happy to share some of the great ideas that they have. The first school librarian that I talked to was Diana Rendina. She runs a blog called Renovated Learning that you should go check out. She has lots of great ideas. Diana's favorite way to introduce littleBits is with a simple intro video, and then she leads her students through the littleBits task cards created by Miss J in the Lib. Diana has also punched the littleBits cards that come with the kits, sorted them by color, and puts them on a key ring. That helps keep the kids' frustration level low. They always can look back to those cards if they want to figure out how to use a bit and they're not seeming to understand from using it. From there, she utilizes the challenges within the educator's guides, because kids love to make something that works as an alarm to keep others from messing with your stuff. Once students have mastered a few simple techniques and a few simple tasks, she gives students a task while holding the most obvious bits. So she finds that limiting materials forces them to be more creative. Her favorite lesson was a student-initiated lesson where her students saw a FaceTime car in Popular Science and decided they needed to build their own car. She loved watching the process of the students getting an idea, then she loved helping them figure out how to execute it. You can read more about her littleBits FaceTime car on her blog, Renovated Learning. Another amazing school librarian I talked to, or maker librarian as I like to call them, is David Saunders. He is a library media specialist at Greenwich County Day School, which is an independent day school in Connecticut. He is also a littleBits global chapter leader. David has built a collection of bits over the past few years, and he has them organized in 2 workshop set boxes that are left open in his lab area. He believes in keeping them available to encourage exploration by students and colleagues. When David hands the littleBits over to students for the first time, he gives the kids 10 to 15 minutes of playing. Then he asks them, what have you noticed? What observations have you made about it? What works and what doesn't? The students' new understandings and persistent questions provide a roadmap for developing a lesson that is relevant and targeted. So he has them figure out how they work, and then he designs the lesson from that. Some of his favorite lessons are he had his 6th grade students embark on a 3-week unit focusing on learning about circuitry with littleBits. David gave the students a challenge to build something that does something. Over the course of the unit, students brainstormed, prototyped, and rethought their assumptions. They ultimately came up with an amazing collection of projects, including a disco ball, an airplane model, and a lighthouse. In the process, they not only learned all the amazing things they could build with littleBits, but they experienced the iterative design process from beginning to end. He also had a game design challenge evening event. In this event, David asked the students to create their own game. It could be a board game, a card game, or a video game, or something else entirely. Since his library is stocked with littleBits, makey kits, Lego bricks, and cardboard, students actually made tabletop adventure games, a full airplane simulator, and a mini golf course challenge where students had to navigate a deftly programmed Sphero. So David's tips on building a maker community, I just love this quote from him. He said, "You can't just buy stuff. You need to build the culture. Students need to make decisions about space and purchasing. Ask them, how do you want it to look, and what do you want to do there? Your library should be an oasis where kids can escape to, but also mess around and explore. You need to get faculty buy-in, and you may want to incorporate professional development for faculty." So since I'm making a librarian's guide, I'd also interviewed different types of librarians, and one of those was Mary Glenderning of Middleton Free Public Library in Pennsylvania. She's the library director, and at Middleton Free Library, they have a place called Create Space at MFL. It is a digital media lab and makerspace, and it opened in 2013 as a pop-up space stored in a meeting room. Now, Mary's favorite way to introduce littleBits was they hosted a full summer girls STEM camp, a week-long camp aimed at girls going to grades 6 through 9. So the goal of the project was called the Technogals. And the Technogals were interested in STEAM subjects and programs. And one of their workshops was a littleBits design challenge. So the girls watched a video of Aya Bader for inspiration. Then each group was given a box to work with. First, they were given time to play and see how it worked and related to everyday electronics. Librarians took a few minutes to go to each group so the girls could share their observations about littleBits. Next, the girls were challenged to improve something you have in everyday life or create something you wish you had. So they had craft materials, Lego bricks, cardboards, and additional bits available so they could transform their ideas into tangible projects. Everyone had paper and pencils and markers to brainstorm before building. Some did this, but others just got to creating. It was interesting to see that some groups worked together on one project and other groups worked individually or on their own. After about an hour, the girls were asked to stop building and share and talk about their projects. Each group or individual explained what they made and showed how it worked. One girl was working on an alarm to remind her to brush her teeth. There was another do-everything creation, a party machine that blew feathers out of it, and a massage relaxation creation. The girls really enjoyed using the small vibrating bit to make projects and incorporate it in some way. So you can kind of see them, this is the does everything doodad pictured here. The entire workshop ran for about an hour and 45 minutes. In addition, they had another 3-part workshop with the synth kit where an audio engineer actually led the workshop and talked to the girls about sound waves. He explained how the oscillator and envelope work, and the girls took that knowledge from the individual bits and made their own software synthesizer on a computer. Mary suggests when we talk about tinkering versus guided learning, she suggests that librarians take a step back when you're facilitating and don't interfere too much. Don't give answers, but feel free to guide patrons toward a solution. If someone gets frustrated, you can offer to work on it together. Simply say, let's learn together and figure it out together can ease a patron's nerves. So sometimes it's hard to really take that step back, but it's really important if we want to get our people thinking and innovating to just take a step back and not interfere too much. The next amazing public librarian I talked to was Holly Arnason, the digital literacy librarian at Edmonton Public Library in Edmonton, Canada. So they have 19 branches in Edmonton, and the Makerspace opened at their Stanley Milner branch in 2013, and is 3,000 square feet of awesome. They have littleBits, a creative media production station, sound recording booth, 3D printers, Lego bricks, Mindstorm robots, and Snap circuits. They actually circulate their littleBits out to some of the other branches, and it was become so popular that the other branches have bought sets for their own libraries. So at EPL, their favorite way to introduce littleBits is to offer classes and community groups they call discovery tours. So these discovery tours, they set out examples of many different hands-on activities that you could try in the EPL Makerspace. They have staff who welcomes participants to the Makerspace and ask important questions like, what does it mean to be a maker? And what kind of thing do you think people can make? During a discovery tour, the Makerspace staff let kids try things hands-on. A staff member is always nearby to help with the learning of the language of littleBits, like, what the inputs are and the outputs and the branch and the power. With students in particular, the Makerspace staff emphasize exploring, and that helps guide their exploration with inquiry. I asked Holly what she thought about tinkering versus guided learning, and she told me that depending on the group and the goals of the visit, it's sometimes important to guide workshops at first with a focus on providing context and background information, and then move on into inquiry and questioning. Sometimes staff members aren't as experienced with facilitated tinkering, so the workshop might end up more guided. The goal is to ultimately provide an environment where participants can explore, collaborate, and generate ideas and designs. For example, a recent drawing bot program for kids 8 through 12 started with an open brainstorming session. Kids were asked to think of their favorite robot, sketch their ideas, and think about what materials they might use. After brainstorming and thinking about their questions on the design process, the kids began prototyping and designing. So some of Holly's favorite lessons are littleBits with Lego lessons. Recently, some of her students, they challenged their kids to build a house that could include littleBits with lights and a fan and could be controlled by switches. And they also included littleBits in a car design. They've had multiple success with using littleBits with Legos and in their Evil Genius Club that they run during summer reading. So as a public librarian, she really loved littleBits because they even helped her collaborate with teachers, because at the Edmonton Public Library, they have a community-led service philosophy. And part of that is having their community librarians work with people in the community and identifying a need and seeing an opportunity to meet that need. So they've actually had the littleBits help them move on to working with the schools. One of Holly's favorite bits is the bar graph. So in the guide, I asked every maker librarian what their favorite bit is, and I really loved Holly's description of the bar graph, because she says because of the way it lights up and it has different colors, that's why she loves it. It's so interesting to use with the dimmer, Arduino, and CloudBit. The CloudBit is another favorite because it's a great technology for being creative, such as designing and pulling pranks. Once I was at a hackathon and hooked up the littleBits CloudBit to a button and another CloudBit to the buzzer. Then she created an if this then that recipe to make the buzzer go off when the alarm was pressed. She hid the buzzer on someone's desk and waited until they were working in concentration. Then she hit the button, and oh boy, did they receive an alarming surprise. So a lot of us like to use the littleBits as pranks. In fact, my students today in their Halloween entry spent the entire time making all pranks. So they have a littleBits book pusher that pushes books off the shelf of the library, and then a creepy giggle sound that plays when you walk by a certain place in the library. So kids really love, and adults really love to make pranks with littleBits. And I think the best thing about it is learning the science behind those pranks. So they're actually learning about electronics. I also spoke with 2 different academic libraries that are using littleBits. And one librarian that I spoke to was Chad Mairn at the Innovation Lab in St. Petersburg Colleges. His Innovation Lab is more than a makerspace. It is a technology playground where people of all ages can learn new skills and collaborate on innovative projects. Chad notes that the workshop set is awesome because it comes in a modular tackle box, and it's kind of like carrying a big suitcase. And he does a lot of traveling with littleBits, and he loves how mobile the tackle box is. So if you guys haven't seen the big purple tackle box, it's a great way to organize your bits as well. His favorite way to introduce littleBits is with the synth kit. So you can see here some librarians playing with a synthesizer and with littleBits synthesizers. He says it's a great way to introduce students to littleBits because tinkerers can start making weird sci-fi-like electronic sounds immediately. Alongside the MIDI module, people can actually control different sounds inside software. So this means that makers and composers can use a computer to create and control sounds from within a digital audio workstation with littleBits. Chad says that both tinkering and guided learning are equally important. He finds it's good to give students a quick overview on what each littleBit is and what the littleBits actually do, because it gives the students a signal path to follow. Once they have the basic idea, he'll stop with the direct instruction, hand over the bits, and let students go. It's good to give them a foundation of what this prototyping tool is at first, but then you have to trust them and give them time to tinker. Chad teaches classes on sound and building an analog synthesizer, and you can actually find his SlideShare out there and use it. I actually was one of the first things I did here with my students at Ryan was have them build an analog synthesizer based on Chad's lesson because I loved it so much. In his littleBits guide, he teaches students about analog synths, and while they learn to control voltage and create interesting electronic beeps and bleeps, students find that it's very neat to play with frequency modulation. Then he chats with each student about sound waves and how you can modify and modulate them. He explains what a synthesizer is, and after the initial guided instruction, he asks his students to build their own synthesizer. The students actually realize that they're controlling voltage, and they garner a basic understanding of what is inside a synthesizer. It's kind of an amazing thing to figure out in such a short time. And our last maker librarians that I spoke to are actually Matt and Sarah. And ironically, this is not a picture of Matt and Sarah. This is a picture of some people at the UNCG self-design studio. But Matt is actually, he's not technically a librarian because he is the director of this design studio, and he's actually an educator, which, you know, we all call ourselves educators, so we're okay with that. He likes to make cool artsy stuff with his hands. And Sarah Prescott is a Master of Knowledge and Training, otherwise known as a library science student. So the Self-Design Studio, where they work, is a makerspace for the teacher education program at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, North Carolina. They have an amazing Facebook page. If you look up the Self-Design Studio, you can see lots of their projects. But Matt and Sarah, when they introduce littleBits, love to hand makers a smallish pile, mostly bits from the deluxe kit, and offer no guidance or instruction at first. Instead, they just say, go. After a few minutes of tinkering, they ask the makers what the color means for each bit, and then they focus their activity by handing over challenge cards. Matt and Sarah have made some awesome challenge cards based on the basic guide, where they have little flaps for suggested circuits if the makers need a hint on what to do next. One of their favorite lessons was during the Invent Anything Challenge last spring. They challenged students to reinvent a work of art, and they made a littleBits motion painting. They only had a video of it, so I couldn't put it in the guide, but it was really an amazing thing. During Scratch Day in May of 2015, they had students work with the programming language of Scratch, and one station they used was a littleBit station where the plug-in for Scratch allowed students to program Scratch blocks to program an Arduino bit. And a couple of students worked with this enough to actually create a classic Pong-style video game using the slide dimmer controller. One of the things I thought was the coolest when I talked with Matt and Sarah was the Hack Your Backpack workshop. They had a girl who hacked her backpack with fans, and so that if it had a sensor on it, and if the weather was warmer than 75 degrees, then the littleBits fans would go off and cool off this innovative student. So last year, as a part of their School of Education mini-grant, they were able to work with a local middle and high school students who are deaf or hard of hearing. And those young makers were challenged to create a deaf-friendly home that would incorporate technology and improve their daily lives. Each student made a model house from foam board, balsa wood, and other art materials, and then they were issued a deluxe littleBits kit that they used to create devices for their models. In many deaf homes, there are no walls, so communication is easy for the family, but that doesn't allow for much privacy. So one innovative student used the DC motor and a push-button bit to create a wall that would come down from the ceiling to give her a private bedroom space. Remember, this is in her model, not in real life, but they're still really cool. Several students also use the vibration motor in the bed as an alarm to wake up the deaf students. So these superstars makers also have quest classes where they turn their makerspace into an interactive game. Makers then earn points by completing different quests with different resources. This is in addition to assisting professors with teaching units on making in teacher method classrooms. And I think one of the most exciting things about the academic libraries is that's what they're doing, is teaching our teachers how to incorporate makerspace activities into the daily curriculum. So now what? You've got some workshop ideas. You've got some organization tips and lesson ideas. What's going to be your next step? Once you get your little bits, you need to organize them and then get them out and start innovating. Don't wait until you figure them out. Go ahead and get them out and start playing as quick as you can. Unleash these powerful little modules that support learning and get your students on the path to innovation. And so if we have any questions, I think we're going to take Q&A now.
Great. Thank you so much, Colleen and Bridget.
Sure.
Terrific presentation. I want to remind all attendees and recommend that you download the slides. Both sets are just packed with a lot of links and resources. And again, you'll want to get to those, and we will certainly be sending out. I'm seeing a few comments and questions about links to sites and Colleen's guide. We'll be pushing that out via the SLJ Makerspace hashtag, and please let's continue this conversation at SL Journal, again, is our handle. And I believe that we've already pushed out Colleen's Hack Your Halloween Challenge, which she referred to earlier. So I'm going to get right to the questions here. We've got a couple of folks here, both Tracy Hightower and Lee Wozniak are asking about digital badging, and if you're using them to track your challenges and how that works. Anyone?
So actually, when I did the badges were just like a little thing I put on students' ID badges, like like you're a littleBits maker, and the kids actually made their own badge in Canva. One of my top makers made a badge in Canva, and it was really just more of a, can this person use littleBits without any supervision, if that makes sense. And that was just because my middle schoolers, you know, I don't know who else works in a middle school, but kids can be kind of rough with things, and so they had to just prove that they really wanted to tinker and learn with the tool. I didn't actually do digital badges, but I'm sure there are some librarians out there with that. And then I see someone's question that I think is really important to answer. Jane McMahon. Should I be worried that students won't be able to keep their products since they can't take littleBits home with them? And then I think a really similar question is, do you disassemble the invention? So if you guys, I guess I could, can I share my link out some way? If you watch my Hack Halloween entry, we took those apart as soon as we finished the video. And I think that kids today are actually really okay with a video or a photo as a final product, because we made those things just for our movie, and we weren't really, aren't really worried that our invention, we don't get to keep it. So to me, it's never been a problem that we have to take something apart.
Hey, Colleen, this is Bridget.
Yeah.
Hi, let me interject something as well.
Sure.
If you go to the littleBits website, and I know it's on the screen in front of you. If you go to that, in the area that we have that's called projects, your students can actually upload projects to our website. And then we have a team at littleBits Corporate that goes through those and just, checks them for error, checks to make sure that all the steps are included and things like that. So that's a great way to remember those projects forever. So if, you know, if they can't take them home, then aside from pictures and all that, hey, you get to be on a corporate website, which would be kind of cool, I think, for some kids.
Yeah.
A couple people are asking about how to download the slides. There's a green resources folder, and if you look at your bottom menu dock, you can access it there. Here's a question for Bridget, I think, from Sue. For a limited budget, and she's in a middle school classroom, what kit would you recommend?
Well, that's just kind of hard to answer because I'm not sure what a limited budget means, but we do have kits. You know, that depends on who you're talking to. But we do have kits that range in sort of the $150 to $250 range that would be more designed for middle school students, such as our space, I knew I was going to do that, space kit, or perhaps even our synth kit. So I think especially the space kit is really designed for those middle school students. What do you think, Colleen?
Yeah, I would agree. I always tell people to get at least one deluxe, one space kit, and one synth kit. The synth kit I would keep out of the elementaries just because even in middle school the noise is kind of crazy. But it's really fun to learn with the synth kit, and that's a synthesizer is what if I sound funny saying synth. But I was actually really surprised that my middle schoolers, when they played with the synth kit, it was like a party in the library. And my high schoolers actually plug headphones in and just sit around and make interesting sounds. And we actually used the synth kit to make sound effects for our movie in our Halloween video. And the space kit is the one where really you're going to find a lot of learning and a lot of science connections. So I love the space kit and the deluxe kit for teaching with the classroom.
There you go, and experts' recommendations along those lines of discerning what's right for middle and high school. Sandy Hartman is asking, what's the youngest age that you can recommend littleBits for?
I've used them with kindergarten and first graders. I have my own first grader, and we use them. So I don't know, Bridget, do you have a good answer for that?
Well, I have a contact that's at a private school in the Austin, Texas area, and he actually uses the bits with preschool or pre-K students. And he said, obviously, with a lot of supervision. And he had said, I can't guarantee you that they actually understand what a circuit is, but you see their little brains connecting to what the bits do together. So he's completely convinced this is something that they can grow and learn from. And I would say just from having a child myself, supervision is one of the best things you can take away from the pre-K group.
Great. Well, that answers Jackie's question, too, because she's asking about children as young as 4 to 6 years old. So there you go, Jackie. I had a question, I think, for the both of you. It doesn't seem that there's any issue with using the product itself. As you explained, Bridget, the color coding is very clear. The learning curve seems to really be around teaching the risk-taking and the collaboration. So how do you go about teaching prototyping, that process, for both students and your teacher peers?
You want me to tackle it first? Or
go ahead, Colleen.
I was just thinking today, well, I've only been here since the beginning or the middle of August, right? And I've had the littleBits out the whole time since school started. And I would say that I noticed Jennifer Wild asked the question, like, how did I get input for a Makerspace before it was, before I was here? I didn't. I usually say that when I'm talking that this is what I suggest, but I wasn't able to do that when I started here because I started in the summer. But what I found is that, they were all sitting around and playing, and I want to stick with the design challenge is really what motivates them to go beyond. So they were already making stuff, but they weren't really, you know, didn't have any purpose. And so once we did the Hack Halloween Challenge, even the synthesizer workshop, then they all started making music. But then when we did the Hack Halloween Challenge, we had very focused, the last 3 weeks, every morning these boys have come in and worked on creating their projects for that video. So I think that really pushes them into the risk-taking and motivation to make something beyond, you know, looking something up.
And the only thing I can interject, so the only thing I can interject is that for me and in my experience, the risk-taking and collaboration has been a little bit harder with adults than children. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a real tough thing to sort of let yourself go and try. But through some other you know, fabulous makers like Colleen, I've kind of learned some things, and that is if you can design or just do little games so that people can get their hands on littleBits, no matter what the level of knowledge, it just sort of goes from there. So if you can get people to just get past, I used to have a friend that used to say, suspend your disbelief. You know, just jump in there and try them out. And then it, you know, it only accelerates from that point.
Yeah, and when I do workshops with adults, the first thing I say is, you're going to fail and you're going to mess up, and that's okay. And they're all like, no, I don't want to do it. But yes, what Bridget's saying is absolutely right. You have to create really small, short tasks for adults that they can accomplish in just a couple of minutes. You know, can you make something that lights up and moves? Can you make a car? Can you make something that draws something? You know, really simple, quick challenges. And then once they get over that, then you can start introducing, you know, a little bit more complex ideas.
Okay, along those lines, Tara is asking, her students only have 20 minutes in their library morning session. Is there activity that you can recommend for such a short time?
Well, you know, that finding the time is kind of the hard part of the job. At Lamar, I had built-in time, so most of those activities I had to do within 30 minutes. We did the Art Bot Challenge in 30 minutes. 20 minutes, I don't know. Maybe if you can break up the workshop into 2 different days, which I know is going to be hard to get them started that way too. But I think really the important thing is that eventually we talk to our teachers enough, the school librarians, and get them using these things in the classroom. So I have not been able to talk my teachers into a full class lesson with littleBits yet. I've done some Sphero lessons with them, but until we get to that moment, then you're going to have the time, right? If you can get into the classroom and collaborate with a teacher. And there are lots of great lessons out there on the educator page of littleBits to do lessons with.
And can you describe again, you mentioned the littleBits educator community. How do you connect with them?
So actually, I think I went and made a community. I think the global communities have only been going on for about 6 months. Is that right, Bridget? The littleBits communities? But
yes, I believe that. I believe that's true. I'd actually just go ahead and admit that I don't know that for sure. But,
well, I noticed.
We can find out.
Yeah, I noticed. I think Nick told me it's been about 6 months when I was on a community call. But I noticed just probably through looking around trying to find something, the community page, and then there are chapter pages. So if you go to the littleBits community page, you'll see all the chapters. They have global chapters, and they have over 150 now. So I think when I signed up a couple months ago, there were only 50, and now there's 150. So I made a littleBits chapter for our school libraries and public libraries, and once I did that, I didn't realize it was like I became a global chapter leader. I kind of just thought it was a spot for me to post my students. Yeah, I thought it was a spot to host my students' projects, which it is. but I ended up making it for our school and public library since it's a global thing. And what's really cool about it is once you get your kids signed in, you can have them upload projects. And honestly, I did not upload a project until yesterday. And then when I did upload a project by a student, it says it's by me. So I need to work on personally getting my students to sign up for the community chapters, and then they can put their projects on there. And that's what Bridget was talking about, where they'll see that they have a project on littleBits page, and it'll be under Denton, Texas. So it'll show that they made those projects. So like right now, it shows the 1- and 2-bit calculator one of my students made. Like I said, it says I made it, but
so they can upload to the community site themselves, or are they doing that?
Yeah,
through you?
They can upload to the community site. So like what I've been doing is I'm uploading the projects myself, but I'm going to work on. It's kind of hard sometimes to get kids to sign up for things. So once I get my kids to sign up, I'll get them to sign up and upload the projects instead of me uploading projects for them. But right now, the project I upload are things my students made, and then because it's public school, you know, we can't necessarily put our first and last name out there on the internet. So that's why I've been doing it. But it's also, the communities have like a monthly community call, and they usually talk to some expert makers, and then you get to do these unhangout sessions with other educators. They're not necessarily all librarians. They're not necessarily all teachers either. Some of them are just people who are really enthusiastic about littleBits.
Oh, terrific. That sounds like a great resource. So that is the littleBits educator community that you can find on the littleBits site. We are actually out of time. We're past the hour. We have some other questions here, and if somebody wants to get the link for that great project at the Edmonton Public Library, again, we'll be following up with this via Twitter and providing all of those resources. So I wanted to thank you all for attending today, and another round of virtual applause for Bridget Campion and Colleen Graves. Thank you very much for your generous presentations. The webcast will be archived in about a week, and we will shoot you an email to tell you when that's available. So again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.